1. For my 17th birthday, I received these really awesome earrings from my aunt. They were dangly, super cute, and made from gold and crystal. The gold was the earring part, and the crystal were these very small stars hanging on golden strands. They had very secure backs too. I loved them. I was both very careful with them and extremely protective of them. They were my treasures. For Christmas that year, my nerdy friends and I decided to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra live. And we all planned to dress up. Of course, these earrings were a part of my ensemble. During the course of the night, these dangly-ass earrings kept getting tangled in my hair, so I decided to take them out and put them in my jacket pocket. The pocket wasn't a side pocket, but was located on my chest and had a zipper, so it was seemingly secure. The jacket was also new, and didn't have any known holes or weird-ass areas where things might fall into. Concert ends, and we head back to one of my friend's basement. I checked my pocket and the earrings were gone. I started freaking out and had my friends look for it. Asked my other friend to check his car, but we couldn't find them anywhere. They told me they must have fallen out at the concert and to just forget it. I went home extremely upset. That night I used a flashlight to inspect my pocket more thoroughly, but they weren't there, and there was nowhere they could have been stuck. I finally accepted that they had fallen out at the concert, and that I was never going to see them again. I moved on, but from time to time I would think about those earrings and get upset all over about them. They meant so much to me, that I kept the box they came in my sock drawer as a reminder. In fact, the box is still currently in my sock drawer. I even brought this box with me when I moved, and I moved quite a bit for college. Different apartments, same town. And even though it failed me, I kept the jacket too. I brought it to college, had wild nights with it, washed it several times, shook it, used it to wrap my dog up. You get the point. I never used that front pocket again, but I checked it frequently out of habit. There was never anything in it. Here's where it gets weird. 2 years ago, the day after Halloween, I was reading creepy stories about the supernatural and paranormal. I had since moved home from college and was staying in my siblings' old room, much larger than my old room. My parents were in another state visiting my sibling, and I was home alone. By alone, I mean the dog was with me and there were no other people in the house. I'm basically Mulder, so being alone, I want to try some EVPs for myself. I walked around my house while my dog slept in my room, with my phone out and recording, asking if there was anyone else around me. I looked like an insane person and probably sound like one too. I remember specifically asking, if there's anyone or anything here with me now, please give me a sign. Of course, there was no answer. I was completely alone at home. But I had this weird urge to go back to my room, and there I saw, sparkling brilliantly in the exact center of the floor, the earrings I had now lost 6 years ago. My dog was awake and sitting perked up in my bed. I was so freaked out that I didn't touch them right away. Carried my dog out of the room, closed the door, and called my boyfriend. He lives in another state, so there was nothing much he could do except try and calm me down. There is no way those earrings were there the whole time. The carpet had been professionally cleaned and vacuumed several times throughout the years. And like I said, the jacket had been washed and used and inspected. There's no way they were in there for 6 years. Plus, since moving home, the jacket had been in my closet the entire time. The spookiest thing to me was the fact that my dog was awake and sitting up, alert, like someone had just entered or left my room. When I finally got the nerve to pick up the earrings, they weren't stuck or embedded in the carpet in any way. It was like they were placed there, one atop the other. One of the earrings was perfectly intact. The other one was missing the stud part, the part you put through the hole in your ear. The earrings now live in my closet. I am quite honestly terrified of them. The fact that they just magically appeared after I asked that question in a completely empty house freaks me out. I decided to post this here instead of paranormal, since this is a rather mundane, tame yet unexplainable and inexplicable event. Is this a thing? Do objects just disappear and reappear years later? Did my earrings go to a different dimension? Did I go to a different dimension? Any explanation, thoughts, or theories are much appreciated. This isn't the first item to have totally disappeared without explanation. Beside these earrings, a Star Trek shirt and my Tweezerman tweezers also straight up vanished. One day they were there and I distinctly remember where I left them. And the next day they were totally gone. I turned my entire house upside down looking for both. Nothing. Maybe I'll get them back in 6 years. 2. So this post will be about a series of strange coincidences involving a cat I had a few years ago. Some of them happened to me directly, and some involved my friends. I guess I'll do these in chronological order, so here is the first coincidence. So this coincidence involves a friend of mine. I won't name him for privacy reasons. A little bit of backstory. Me and him were and still are neighbors and good friends, and, at the time of this story, we both attended the same school. Anyway, on with the story. As me and Jack were friends, we often had discussions about a range of varieties at break in school. This day we were having a discussion about dreams, a subject me and him were both interested in. After talking about a few dreams we'd had, he goes on to describe a dream he had a few nights before. This is where the coincidence comes in. So, in his dream, he saw me walking a cat on a lead. We both laughed at the idea of this, however, he then went on to tell me that the cat he saw was not mine. At the time, the cat I owned was ginger and white. However, the cat in his dream was a tabby. At the time of this, we found this slightly weird, but put it down to him seeing a cat of this color somewhere else. Now this is where it gets weird. Because a few months after this, I did actually end up getting a tabby cat. The weird thing is, my cat was a kitten at the time of his dream, and so we weren't planning on getting a new cat anytime soon. However, a few months after this, he was unfortunately run over, and we got a new cat quite soon after. What's also weird is that he described the pattern on the cat in his dream, and he was almost perfectly describing the cat I now own. Coincidence or something else? Anyway, let's move on to the next coincidence. So this one involves my cat and takes place a few months after the last one. The coincidence was a conversation between me and another friend who I won't name for privacy. So some backstory. At school, that day we were looking at a book. I don't recall the title. On an image from the book, there was a cat that looked almost identical to mine. The ginger one I mentioned before. I pointed it out to my friend and said I hope it survived this story. Jokingly, he responded by saying that he had read it before and that it died. Now this would normally be of no significance, however. This is where the coincidence comes in. I know this sounds hard to believe, but hear me out. The very next morning, my cat was hit by a car and killed. And what do you think about this? Please tell me. And now we come to the final coincidence. This one involves me, and only me. Now for some backstory. I have this chair in my bedroom that's made out of woven wood. I'm not sure exactly what it's called. Now, my cat that was run over had a habit of walking up to this chair often and scratching it. Keep in mind, none of the cats I've had since do this. Anyway, one evening about a year ago, a couple of years after my cat was killed, I was sitting on my bed when I heard the noise of the chair being scratched. I turned around and saw nothing and felt a bit creeped out. Thinking back on it now, I'm certain this wasn't my imagination. So that's all the coincidences. Thanks for reading, and please tell me any ideas you have for explanations of them. 3. I can honestly say that I now believe in things strange, fully. This following experience is one of a few that I have had. I can honestly say that I believe that I experienced a few glitches, but nothing like this, and hopefully never again. This happened to me when I was in college around March 2010. I was on my way home from the post office, from mailing off student loan and tax information. I remember having this feeling suddenly, almost like I was queasy. I was crossing the street when I was almost hit by an old car that came out of nowhere. I looked before I crossed at the crosswalk, and the street was empty. It was like it just appeared. It was an old car, like 1950s old. It was a Studebaker Commander. I know this from googling old cars, but I digress. The driver told me to get out of the road. I made it across the street, and here's where things get different. The office building that was across the street wasn't there. It was an apartment building, and some of the older homes and buildings looked new, but the cars were old vehicles from the 50s. I didn't linger long in front of the building where I kept getting strange stares from people. It was like I had a pair of antennae growing out of my head. I popped into a drugstore where a cafe was usually. I bought a beverage which cost me 25 cents from the counter in there. I left when the pharmacist and people in the pharmacy kept staring at me. It was like things were familiar, but they weren't. I tried taking pictures with my phone only to have it not turn on, where things were just strange. I kept walking on where things just didn't feel right. There was a grocery store and a bank on Oxford Street that aren't there. I also saw a tram instead of then Metro Transit, now Halifax Bus Transit. It was going up Almond Street. It had a face on it with a teardrop under the eye on the front of it. Finally, my phone made the familiar Kudo startup sound. I looked around and everything was normal again. It was very creepy. I sent out 1,000,000 text messages to people about it and got a few "that's nice" replies. I went straight home and hid for the whole weekend until Monday came, and I had to go to class. I wrote it off as one of those odd experiences until I discovered this forum and posted my coworker email glitch. Note that I did some research on this and found an article that partially explains what I saw. The last street trolley to run in my city had a crying face on the front of it, where they were ending the service back in 1949. 4. This is just something that blew my mind, and I really can't figure out what caused it. A few weeks ago, I was at work. I work as a front desk receptionist at a dental practice, and work closely with the woman who does the billing stuff, since we basically share a desk, and are next to each other every day for 11 hours. That being said, I'm 21 and she's well over 50. Although we do get along well at work, we don't have a personal relationship outside of the office. I only ever text her when I'm running late in the morning. Her husband calls the office frequently, so one day he called, and I overheard them talking. Just to make this more brief, the conversation seemed to be her husband telling her they got a weird message on their home machine from last night, Sunday, of what sounded like someone trying to start a lawnmower with no gas and a man seemingly mumbling and struggling to turn it on. This is just what she told me it sounded like. I never heard the message. And he was asking her if she recognized the number. She said no, and said she would look it up on Google and see if she could figure out who it was. After a few minutes, she looked at me with a really confused and kind of annoyed face. "Did you call my house last night and leave a weird message?" In my head, I'm like, "What the fuck? No, bitch. Why would I call you?" But I say, "No, I don't have your home number, and my phone has been dead. Why?" And she shows me the computer screen. The phone number her husband told her had left the message was my cell phone number. When she Googled it, my Facebook came up. That's how she knew it was my number. What the fuck, like I said before, we don't have a personal relationship at all. Which is the exact reason I don't have her home number. I have her cell phone number in my phone, which had been dead since Saturday morning. I slept at my boyfriend's for the weekend and left my charger at home. It's a shitty flip phone, and I have an iPad, so I don't mind not having it on for a few days. It was now Monday, so my phone had been completely dead the entire day of Sunday, which is when they got that missed call and message. I am still so confused. I was so freaked out, I went home in my lunch break and got my charger, went back to work and plugged it in with Maria so we could see if somehow, some way, I did have her home number in there. Nope, just her cell phone. And no record of calling her that day, because my phone was dead as a doorknob. What the fuck, Reddit? What was this? And what the hell, what old man was trying to mow his damn lawn at 2 a.m. through my phone? am still seriously confused by this, and I think my co-worker thinks I'm a weirdo now. Five. It was December 2006. I had just graduated high school and had moved out on my own with my boyfriend and my 2-year-old daughter. Yes, I know, young mom. On this day, my grandma, who lives in central Missouri, had to go in and have a minor surgery. She came through it like a champ, and the whole family came to see her. All was well. The family went separate ways and headed home. Uncle and aunt to Tennessee, my mom and us to Iowa, and my aunt and uncle in lower Missouri. We got home around 8 p.m. and my boyfriend was at the apartment waiting for my daughter and I. We had dinner, watched a movie, and went to bed. I had a dream my phone rang and my grandmother had had complications and passed away. I woke up at 2:06 a.m. to my phone ringing and my boyfriend cussing. Who in the hell would have the nerve to call this late? I responded while the phone was still ringing. It's my mom. Grandma died. He scoffed at me and said, she was just fine when you all left, and answered the phone. Within seconds his face was pale white, and he kept repeating, "Oh God, I'm so sorry," over and over. When he hung up with my mom, he asked me how I knew while hugging me and allowing me to cry. I answered the question through a sob. I had a dream. I answered my phone, and it was Mom telling me, and I woke to the phone ringing. My grandma passed due to a blood clot from the surgery moving to her heart. The rest of the family thought I was crazy when I told them 2 years later. But my boyfriend knew the truth. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Glitch in the Matrix Stories, number 9. You know, that last story actually reminds me of something my mother would occasionally tell myself and my sister. She'd recall, and I can't remember if it was a dream or if she woke up. Let's say it was a dream. My own mother passed several years ago, so I can't exactly ask her. But she found her grandmother, my great-grandmother, sitting on the edge of her bed. She found her there, and she was saying goodbye to her. And she learned the next day, with a phone call, that she had, in fact, passed away in the night. Now, this certainly wasn't a surprise, as she was actually quite advanced in years when she passed away. And personally, I have no memories of her. I do recall a picture of her holding a baby, but I'm not sure if it was myself or my sister. It may have been me. But that is a story that has always stuck in my mind. There aren't a great deal of odd, paranormal type things that have happened in my family. That's probably why that does stick in my mind. It is quite interesting to me just how many of these Glitch in the Matrix stories have kind of a crossover to an almost paranormal bent. Ah well. Okay, let's see, where are we now? Tomorrow we'll have paranormal stories up. That'll be for the Friday. So far I have no TIFU stories, but I'm going to try and gather some. So fingers crossed for a TIFU. If not, I might just do another Let's Not Meet or something. You know, I'll have something worthwhile up. And oh yeah, I've got a collaboration coming out. I'm not sure when it's out, but I've got one in the works. I've recorded everything for that. And I was asked to do another collaboration by a YouTuber I'm quite a fan of. I'm not going to say who it is, and I'll let you know a bit more when we know it's actually happening. I haven't actually responded to them yet, so I'm going to respond to them and say, yeah, that's a good idea, let's do that. Okay, I think that'll do us for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.